All right, if you have, what's up guys? So I'm doing a Lincoln MKC Select, and it's the 2.0. It's the same exact engine as the last 2.0 that I just did, a removal and replacement video. I haven't really seen too many on these Lincolns, but it's the same exact engine. We're gonna try to get this thing out the top. Now, that last one that I did, let me grab the tape measure. I measured out one of the other 4 2.0s that we did on the last one, because I'm seeing a lot of guys say you can't pull it off the top, and a lot of guys said that about that 4 2.0 that I just posted, and I was able to pull it off the top. And if we measure from the bottom of that firewall to the front of about the radiator over here, we're at about 25 inches. And I measured out the Ford. We have a 2.0, same engine, same model that I did in that video, and it's also 25 inches from there to here. And if I was able to pull it on that Ford without having to drop the entire subframe and all the other junk, I can do it on this one. So I'm not going to do a full walkthrough on this because it's the exact same steps as that video that I just posted. And I'll post in the description, you know, a video link if you are coming to this video for your Lincoln, on how to remove the engine, because it's the exact same steps as the Ford video that I posted. But I'm going to go ahead and start tearing into this, and we're going to attempt to pull it out. Update: you can pull the Lincoln MKC 2.0 turbo front wheel drive out from the top. It is doable, and I will show you how I did it. I didn't really have to change up much. You got to make sure this is pushed back behind the trans like this, because that can get you caught up. The way I did it, so this is the new engine. You can see I got it out. It's a very tight space right here. You can see where the old engine was kind of scraping up right here. It didn't damage anything. It was just the body of the old engine. I'm not really worried, but it was a very tight squeeze. But I didn't even have to tilt it. I didn't have to go like that. I got it as straight as I could. I raised it up a bit, and I lowered the trans just a little bit. Like, the trans can't be like this, because you're gonna make either this end stick out a little more or the bottom stick out a little more. You need your transmission as straight as you can, so that it's pretty much 90 degree to the vehicle, as well as, you know, the engine being completely straight up and down, because you're gonna have very little room once you get this popped off and separated to pull out. You gotta have it as straight as you can and just pull it straight out, just straight out. And the way I did it was, of course, you know, like I said, the same steps as that other 4 2.0 that I just posted. You gotta remove the intake manifold, you gotta remove the oil filter housing, the compressor, the alternator. If you guys remember, you can do this engine without having to evacuate the AC system. Just unbolt your compressor and let it drop down. And on the other engine, what I did as well to help get it out was I unbolted this little guy and the water pump little pulley. It gave me a little bit more room to raise it up and out, so that I'm gonna remove the water pump pulley in this, because there's a little bit less room to work with on this Lincoln. But once you get the water pump pulley removed, it gives you enough room to do it. Now, if you truly cannot do it, the only other way you're gonna be able to get this engine out is by removing the harmonic balancer. Now, to do this, you gotta be real careful. You're gonna need some special tools. So you're gonna need a harmonic balancer puller. You can see I've got a new one that I just got in case I ended up having to remove the harmonic balancer, which I will be doing on the install. I'll be going over that, and you're gonna need some forward camshaft alignment tool or the locking tools. You'll need the pin and the little cam locker. The both of those, I recommend you get those 100%. I've seen guys try to eyeball it, and every single time they end up messing the timing up, just because the style of the engine and the crank wanting to turn real easily. That is my best recommendation. This kit I got from Summit Racing for like 30 bucks, so it's really not that bad of a steal. I recommend just get it from Summit or Amazon. There's no point in going to freaking AutoZone or buying it off the tool truck for like $200. It's as simple as it get. But going over how I end up doing this entire thing, you can see I am kind of voicing over right now, but I'm gonna be cutting the video part right here. The next part you guys are gonna see is getting the engine's harmonic balancer off. It's only gonna add 30 minutes most of your labor time, but once you've got the engine out, you're just gonna remove the valve cover, you're gonna set it TDC, use the locking pins, and we'll go over that in the next part of the video. I'm gonna be removing the harmonic balancer because I remember on the pool, had a little bit of contact right here, and I don't really want to damage the new engine, so this only adds like 30 minutes onto what you're gonna do. But like I said, it's the same process that was in the last video. So you're gonna need some special tools to pull the balancer off, because we gotta lock the cam and the lower end. So it's really easy, just get your valve cover off. Once you get the valve cover off, you gotta remove this little pump guy. It's just 3 bolts, get those off. Once you have that off, you gotta remove this cap. It's gonna go on like this. Just get this cap off and set it down over here. And now we're gonna grab our special tools. You're gonna need, I got this from Summit. This is a brand new kit actually, but we're gonna need this pen, and we're gonna need the locker. I don't know if we're gonna use this. I don't think I'm gonna use this. I've never used them to just pull the balancer off, but this guy is gonna go right here, and the way this is gonna go on is this going to lock onto the cams up here. So this little dowel pin is gonna go into the center right here, and when we have it lined up, it's gonna lock it in place, and this is gonna lock the top in so that these don't rotate, as well as putting the pin where this little 12mm nut is. We're gonna take this plug out, and we're gonna take the spark plug out. We're gonna go ahead and find the TDC for this cylinder, and then once we have it at the TDC with the cylinder, we're gonna rotate it back a little bit, put the pin in, rotate the crank all the way clockwise until it catches on this and stops, and then we're gonna go back up top and put the little locking crank piece in. So let me go ahead and pull the spark plug and get the plug out. All right, once you've gotten your spark plug out, 22 or 21mm socket on the crank and ratchet, we're gonna go ahead and put the socket in here. We're already almost at TDC, but the way you gotta do it is, so we're gonna find TDC, and then we're gonna rotate the crank back about, I'd say, so this is from down here, we're gonna rotate about 15 degrees counterclockwise a little bit, and then put the pin in. Let me go and zap out the 12mm plug, because we're gonna need to it's a 10mm, my bad. Correction, plug is a 10mm. Alright, so we've got the plug out. Let's go ahead and get our pin. Alright, so we're gonna find TDC by slowly raising it. We gotta go the other way, so you don't want to turn it counterclockwise when you do this. So go ahead and keep rotating. We're coming back up to TDC. and wait for it to kind of go back down a little bit, real slow. That's TDC, so I'm gonna pull it back just a hair. Just a hair. Okay, so we're going back down, and we want it perfect. Okay, that should be perfect, and then you're gonna verify that that's at TDC. By looking at this, this should be flat, should be parallel. So at this point, we could put the pin in right there. So, I mean that locking tool, but we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put the pin in first. So we're gonna rotate this the other way about 10-15 degrees so we can have room to, so this half of 90, so like that should be good. Let's go ahead and put the pin in. Just thread it in all the way. And now turn the crank till it locks. All right, so with it locked against the pin, we're gonna now set the tool on, and it should just go right in, as you can see. So now I like to kind of put a little pressure against this to keep lock it in place. So I'm gonna grab it and just apply a little bit of pressure clockwise, so we can confirm that it's locking. So you have it locked on both ends. TDC. So now let's go ahead, and we have got to mark the crank harmonic balancer so that we put it on exactly the way we took it off. And the way I like to do this is I just find a mark, and you want to put it on the exact same way you took it off. So put a mark right here, and put a mark right here on the housing. Because remember, we're only taking this off to get the engine inside the car. So here you can see I made a marking, make it real visible in case it rubs off, kind of rub a little bit of the teeth. So from here, with it being locked down here and locked up there, so we have it locked right now. Before we take the balancer off, we can put a mark on our little extension on where it is. And the way we could do this is I can put a mark kind of like right, let's do a better one. Let me scratch that off. We can put a mark right here so we know that it did not shift. So right here you can see I made a little mark so that whenever I put the extension back, I can verify that it is still level before I put the harmonic balancer back on, and if I need to adjust the crank a little bit if it does shift a millimeter or two. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the balancer off and get this engine back in there. And like I said, when you have the engine out, it only takes you an extra 20 minutes. So it's not too big of a worry. You can still get the engine out with the balancer on. But this just makes it a lot easier, so you don't got to worry about dinging up your balancer or anything else or damaging anything. But I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and it's a very tight squeeze. We got it out with it on, and it's a very tight squeeze. So let me go and do that. All right, another quick review. Balancer is off. As you can see, you can also verify when you have the balancer off if your little marking moved at all, and it's kind of hard for you guys to see, but you can see the bottom of the marking on the extension and the engine are still lined up, so that means crank did not move. If it does move, like I said, guys, whenever you put it back on, you're gonna thread this back in, and because the only way it's gonna move, like I said, is it's gonna move to the left. And if you got to adjust it, make sure this is still in. You do not want this to shift. And if you gotta shift it a millimeter or two, put it on here, put your ratchet, rotate it clockwise just enough to where you get your little markings lined up back again. And then put your balancer back on, line up your markings, and then put it back on. But you're gonna do this while it's in the car. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this engine back in. I'm gonna carefully take this out, and you're taking mind, you know, you don't wanna bump this or bump that and accidentally shift everything. I'm gonna put the engine back in with the valve cover off because it shouldn't damage anything. My chains are gonna reach up there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this, get it back in, get it assembled, and put the balancer back on. And then we'll go over how to verify nothing shifted. And then from there, you're just gonna finish up the engine and get your car back on the road. All right, so the engine is back in. I've got it bolted together by a couple of the bolts. Now, remember what I said? We gotta put the balancer back on and make sure, you know, we're lined back up. This guy didn't really move at all, but I'm pretty sure the crank got jostled around a bit when I was making the torque converter. So I'm gonna show you guys how I do this. So remember markings on our extension. Let's set it back down and let's see what we gotta adjust. We might not have even moved much at all. We're looking at the top blob, not the lower smudges. That's where it was mating. So it's looking like I don't even need to adjust. Yeah, we're looking pretty good. So from here, worst case scenario, if I gotta adjust it, say we were right here and it moved back. At that point, you'd go down below and you're gonna grab your ratchet, your socket, and you're gonna grab your crank bolt. You're gonna make sure this is still on. You're gonna go down below, down here. You're gonna thread your bolt in here into the crank, and then you're gonna watch and turn it, because remember, it's only gonna turn so far clockwise because that locking pin is still inside. Now, if it jostled and turned, rotated counterclockwise when you were getting the engine in or while it was mating to the torque converter, then just get your ratchet, make sure that's still locked in, and just turn it clockwise until it's up against the pin again, or until your marking on your that you put in the cylinder matches up again with the marking on the engine that you put down. Once you've got it lined up, you can take your ratchet off, take the crank bolt back out, and then you're gonna put your harmonic balancer like we're about to do. You're gonna line your harmonic balancer back up on with the marking that you put on there earlier with the front of the timing cover. You can see the little marking up on there. And then from there, you know, you're gonna put it back on. You're gonna make sure that the little, if yours has a washer on it, make sure that your washer is still on it. You're gonna, the way I put it on is I just put it back on and then I'll impact it. And then you're gonna have to grab some sort of strap or something and grab yourself a torque wrench. Make sure you torque it down properly. I'll put the torque spec in the description, and then you can finish on with your engine install. But from there, I mean, that's pretty much it. All right, just to show you guys that we don't have any issues. We didn't have any issues after we removed the balancer doing it my way. Started perfectly good. We got no codes. I'm bleeding it right now, and I'm gonna get this Lincoln back out to the customer. The only thing you gotta do is remember when you did on the Ford is you're gonna go in to the powertrain control module and you're gonna do the misfire monitor neutral profile correction. But you can't do that until the engine is warm. So while I'm bleeding this, I'm gonna wait for it to get up to temp, and then I'm gonna do that on my scan tool. Go test drive it, make sure it's not misfiring or nothing else, and then get the vehicle back out to the customer. But that's pretty much it. I mean, to sum it all up, you guys If you followed along from the other video as well as this one on this Lincoln, you can get the engine out of the top. It saves you quite a bit of time. You don't have to drop anything on the bottom. You can even do the entire repair on the ground without a lift if you do it my way. I took the wheel off because it helps trying to get the belt and everything back on and off, but I mean, it's doable, and I appreciate you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions, just feel free to ask, and you guys have a good weekend.